And what I'd like to do with you right now is share a simple innovation story. This is a story that's going to get you thinking a little bit more deeply about what it takes to make innovation happen. And as I share this story with you, I'd like you to do something very simple. I'd like you to reflect on what you like about the story and what you don't. Couldn't be any easier than that. Just think about what you like about the story and what you don't. Here we go. It was the best of times for Mammoth Corporation. Earnings were going up quarter in, quarter out. Stock price was through the roof. Customers were happy. Employees were happy. Suppliers, heck, they thought it was an honor just to be able to do business with this company. But one day, a new technology changed Mammoth's industry, and the company was late on a new product launch. And at the end of the next quarter, something unprecedented happened. Mammoth missed its earnings targets. A great company was humbled. Well, I'm happy to tell you that the senior leadership team was strong, and they quickly rose to the challenge of restoring Mammoth's glory. The CEO even gave a big speech, and he told every single employee that Mammoth was looking for the next big idea. The company went on to hold innovation workshops and innovation seminars and innovation retreats, all in an effort to catalyze this search. And eventually, all that hard work paid off. You see, from a dusty cubicle deep within one of Mammoth's sub-basements, there emerged a visionary, our hero, a leader with the next big idea. Now, I've got to tell you that the senior management team was very careful. They did their homework. They called on outside experts. They studied this idea from every conceivable angle until eventually they concluded that this indeed was an opportunity with unlimited potential. They'd found it, the next big idea. And that is how our hero landed his dream job, leading Mammoth into the future. Well, I think you probably know it wasn't quite so easy as all of that. You see, our hero soon discovered the truth about large organizations, that they are like machines designed to excel at yesterday's business. Our hero ran into roadblocks and barriers and entanglements, people that insisted that he follow procedure, people that stood in the way of smart hires, people that reminded him again and again that he wouldn't succeed unless he followed more of Mammoth's best practices. I'm sorry to tell you that within just a few months, inspiration had become desperation. It got so bad, in fact, that late one night our hero woke up in a cold sweat. He'd had a horrible dream, and in that dream he had been wrestled to the ground and nearly strangled to death by a giant octopus. Our hero immediately grasped the significance of this dream. And he resolved right then and right there that he wasn't going to allow Mammoth to destroy its own future. He was going to defeat that octopus, no matter what it took. Well, something else happened that night, something hard to explain, something quite mysterious, really. You see, when our hero woke up the next morning, he realized he was strong. He was ready to charge. He was ready to take on any battle. He had powers that he never knew he had. He was, in a word, Innovation Man. And Innovation Man charged into work the next day. And when he ran into barriers, he smashed right through them. And he was even clever enough to go underground. He didn't fight every battle head on. Instead, he broke some rules and sort of nurtured a conspiracy. And eventually, that approach paid off. Eventually, the next big idea became Mammoth's biggest and most profitable business. And our hero, he was promoted, and promoted again until he became Chief Executive Officer. And after a few years in that role, he retired, rich, happy, very successful. All right, so at this point, you've had a chance to reflect a bit and to think about what you liked about that story and what you didn't. And I'd now like to share a few of my thoughts. I like this story. I like it that it's optimistic. I like it that one person, one small guy, takes on a huge enemy and somehow wins. And I like this story in that it reminds us of the very reality that I spoke of earlier, that innovation and ongoing operations are always and inevitably in conflict. But if I had to be completely honest with you, I'd have to say that I like this story in exactly the same way I like reading superhero fantasies to my 5-year-old. Make no mistake about it, that story was a fantasy. And yet, when we go out and study innovation in real companies, we hear a lot that sounds like this story about one person taking on the system. And it's a nice story, but let me put it in perspective. 100 years ago, in the adolescence of medicine as a science, there was plenty of room for voodoo and witch doctors. Well, today, I say we're in the adolescence of innovation management as a science, and there's still plenty of room for innovation mythology. And we have but one dominant innovation myth. I call it the innovator versus the octopus. Because in our singular myth of corporate innovation, the hero is always this brilliant, inspired visionary, and the enemy is always this oversized, life-draining bureaucracy. The hero is always the innovator. The enemy is always the octopus. And people live through stories. And when it comes to innovation, no story is more powerful than this one. Journalists know this. And if you look at the mainstream business press, you won't have to look too long before you find a story that follows this plot line almost exactly. One person takes on the system and wins. I'm here to tell you that once in a while it may work, but it is a long odds bet. It's best to think of the innovator versus the octopus as a fantasy story and nothing more. We must do better.